I never imagined something so simple, a locked door, could leave me questioning everything I thought I knew about my home, my family, and especially my stepson. It was supposed to be a quiet weekend. My husband had left early for a business trip, and I was looking forward to spending some time with my 9-year-old stepson, Liam. We'd only been a blended family for a year, and though things weren't always perfect, I had grown to care for him deeply. He was polite, quiet, and unusually mature for his age, sometimes too mature, if I'm being honest. He'd often say things that didn't quite match his age, little observations about people or the way the world worked that would catch me off guard. But I chalked it up to intelligence or maybe something he picked up from the internet. That Saturday evening, the sky turned gray earlier than usual and the wind began howling around the house. I lit a few candles in case the power went out and asked Liam if he wanted to watch a movie. He picked an old animated film and settled in on the couch while I made popcorn. Everything felt normal, peaceful even, until he looked up at me out of nowhere and said, "Don't worry." I locked the door. I paused. "What door?" I asked, confused. "The back door," he said simply, eyes still on the TV. "The one that always creaks open when it's windy." It didn't seem like a big deal at first. He was probably just trying to be helpful. But there was something about the way he said it. So calm, so certain. I hadn't even mentioned the back door, and it hadn't been windy long enough for that creaking sound to start. Still, I smiled and thanked him, trying to shake the unease. But then I realized something strange. I hadn't heard him go near the kitchen or the back hallway all evening. And when I quietly stepped away to check the door myself, it wasn't locked. In fact, it was slightly open. My stomach dropped. I walked back into the living room, trying to keep my voice steady. "Liam, when did you lock the back door?" He didn't turn around. "I already told you. You don't need to check. Just trust me." It was such a simple sentence. But the way he said it, slow, calm, almost like a warning, sent chills down my spine. My heart was pounding, not just from the door being unlocked, but from the feeling that there was something more going on. Something I couldn't see but could definitely feel. That's when I noticed the candle near the window flicker hard, as if something or someone had just passed by. And in that same moment, Liam finally turned to face me, his expression completely blank. "Don't open it," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. And that's when I knew. Whatever was on the other side of that door wasn't just the wind. I stared at Liam, trying to read his face, but there was nothing there, no fear, no confusion, not even a hint of mischief like you'd expect from a child playing a prank. Just calm, serious eyes watching me too closely for comfort. The candle flame near the window kept flickering, bending toward the back of the house like it was being pulled by something. I swallowed hard and looked away, forcing a smile. "Okay," I said softly, "we'll leave it closed." I didn't want to scare him, and honestly, I didn't want to scare myself either. I tried to go back to normal, sitting beside him on the couch and pretending to focus on the movie, but my thoughts were racing. The open door, his warning, the strange way he said, "Just trust me." I couldn't let it go. I glanced at my phone. My husband had sent a message earlier, saying he'd landed safely and would call in the morning. I thought about texting him, but what would I even say? Our kid is acting weird and the door won't stay shut? I'd sound paranoid. So I stayed quiet. Watched Liam. Waited. As the movie ended, Liam stretched and said he was going to bed. I nodded, trying to act casual. "Do you want me to tuck you in?" He paused at the bottom of the stairs. "No. You don't need to go upstairs tonight." That stopped me cold. "Why not?" He turned back to look at me, one foot already on the step. "Because I already checked everything. It's safe up there." He said it like he was protecting me, not the other way around. Like he was the adult, and I was the one who didn't need to know what was going on. He didn't wait for my reply. Just walked up the stairs slowly, one step at a time, and disappeared into the hallway. A second later, I heard his door close. The house was too quiet. I got up and checked the back door again, still unlocked, still open just a little. I shut it, turned the lock, and slid the chain across. Then I stood there for a long moment, listening. I thought I heard something outside. A rustle, like footsteps on the leaves. But when I peeked through the curtains, there was nothing. Just darkness. Back in the living room, I picked up the remote, but I couldn't concentrate. I kept thinking about how Liam knew the door was unlocked before I even mentioned it. How he warned me not to open it. How he didn't want me going upstairs. I thought back to little things that hadn't made sense before, how he never liked talking about his dreams, how he sometimes stared out the window late at night like he was watching for something. Once, I even found him asleep on the floor in front of his bedroom door, like he was guarding it. I told myself maybe he was just an anxious kid. Maybe he'd overheard something on TV or read something online. But deep down, I knew this wasn't normal. Something was off. And when I finally went to bed and locked my own door, I kept thinking about Liam's words. Don't open it. But why? What was he trying to protect me from? And why did it feel like he knew something I didn't? Sleep didn't come easily that night. Every creak of the house, every gust of wind outside, made me sit up a little straighter in bed. I kept my door locked, just like I always did when my husband was away, but it didn't feel like enough. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, not just with the house, but with Liam. Or maybe around him. The kind of wrong you can't quite name, but your body feels it before your brain can catch up. Around 2 a.m., I thought I heard footsteps. Light ones, moving slowly down the hallway. I sat up, holding my breath. They stopped outside my door. I waited for a knock. None came. Just silence. Then, just as suddenly, the sound of soft footsteps heading back upstairs. I couldn't bring myself to open the door. I told myself it was just Liam getting water or using the bathroom, but deep down I knew he hadn't needed anything. He was checking on me. The next morning, Liam was already at the kitchen table, dressed, eating cereal like nothing had happened. His face was calm, too calm. When I asked how he slept, he smiled and said, "Fine." "Did you hear anything last night?" It felt like a test. I gave a careful nod. "Just the wind." He stirred his cereal a bit, then said, "It's better if you don't listen too closely." I tried to laugh it off, like maybe he was just being a spooky kid. But there was no humor in his voice. He wasn't trying to scare me, he was warning me. Later that afternoon, I called my friend Carla. I needed to talk to someone who wouldn't think I was losing my mind. She knew about my new life, the sudden shift from single to stepmom. I didn't tell her everything, just that Liam had been acting strange and that something about the house felt off. She surprised me by saying she felt the same when she visited last month. "I didn't want to freak you out," she said, "but your house has this heaviness to it. Like it's holding a secret." That stayed with me. The real shift happened that evening. I decided to clean the guest room, which we rarely used. While dusting the closet shelves, I found a box tucked in the corner. It was full of drawings Liam's, judging by the handwriting on the back. Most were what you'd expect from a 9-year-old: animals, stick figures, spaceships. But one pile stood out. These were darker. Jagged shapes, eyes in windows, figures standing by doors. One had a stick figure lying in bed and a shadow watching from the hallway. On the back, he'd written, "Don't let it in." I sat down hard on the bed, heart pounding. Why would he draw this? Had he seen something? When I asked him about the drawings later, he looked up from his book and said quietly, "That's why I locked the door." I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, holding the picture, my mind spinning. What door was he really talking about? And what exactly was he trying to keep out? Because whatever it was, it still felt like it was getting closer. The rest of the day passed in a strange kind of quiet. Liam acted normal, too normal, actually. He played with his Legos, ate his lunch, and even helped me with the dishes without me asking. But I couldn't stop thinking about those drawings. The eyes in the windows, the shadow in the hallway, and the words, "Don't let it in." It wasn't just a child's imagination. I could feel it. He had seen something real to him. I tried to talk to him again after dinner. I waited until we were both on the couch, the TV playing low in the background. Liam, I said gently, those pictures you drew, where did you get the ideas from? He didn't answer at first. Just stared at the screen, blinking slowly. Then he said, I didn't make them up. I just draw what I remember. From where? I asked. He finally looked at me. From before you moved in. When it used to come more often. A chill ran through me. What used to come? He hesitated, then whispered, the thing that knocks but doesn't use its hands. I felt the air leave my chest. Liam, did you ever tell your dad about this? He shook his head. He doesn't believe in things he can't see. But I do. I see it all the time. The house seemed to grow colder after that. I tried to distract myself with chores, scrolling through my phone, anything. But the silence pressed in, heavier with every hour. I checked all the windows, locked every door twice. I left the hallway light on. And still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching. Later that night, I was about to go to bed when I heard the knock. Not at the front door. Not at the back. It came from inside the house. A soft, dull knock, 3 times on the hallway wall outside my room. I froze. I wasn't imagining it. I knew what I heard. Slowly, I walked to the door and pressed my ear against it. Silence. I opened it a crack and peeked into the hallway. Empty. But the light I'd left on was flickering, like the bulb was fighting to stay alive. Then I saw it, Liam. He was standing at the top of the stairs, barefoot, staring down the hallway. He didn't blink, didn't speak. I whispered, Liam, are you okay? He raised a hand and pointed not at me, but behind me. I spun around, heart hammering, but the hallway behind me was empty. When I turned back to Liam, he was already walking toward me. He stopped just a few feet away and said, It's here. My voice shook. What is? He looked past me again and whispered, The reason I locked the door. That's when the lights went out. Total darkness. I couldn't see him anymore. Couldn't hear anything but my own breathing. Then, faintly, I heard a sound from the far end of the hall. A low creak, like a door slowly opening. A door I hadn't touched. And I knew in that moment, whatever was coming, we were no longer alone in the house. I stood frozen in the pitch-black hallway, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear anything else. I reached out blindly, whispering Liam's name, but there was no answer. Just the soft creaking sound continuing from the far end of the hallway, slow, deliberate, like someone or something was stepping through a door that should have stayed shut. My fingers fumbled for the wall until I found the light switch. I flipped it, but nothing happened. The power was gone. That's when I saw it. Not clearly. Just a shape. A tall, dark figure standing where the hallway ended, still and silent. It wasn't moving, but it was there. I blinked hard, trying to make sense of it in the dim glow of the dying candles from the living room behind me. Then I felt something grab my hand. I nearly screamed, but it was Liam. He pulled me hard, whispering, Don't look at it. That's what it wants. I didn't argue. I let him drag me down the hallway and into the guest room. We shut the door, and he pushed the dresser in front of it like he'd done it 100 times before. I dropped to my knees, trying to catch my breath. What is it, Liam? I asked, my voice shaking. Why is this happening? He looked at me, pale and serious. It followed Dad home once. From his old job, before he met you. But it didn't want him. It wanted someone younger. Someone it could scare. That's how it feeds. Feeds? I repeated, horrified. He nodded. On fear. On attention. If you ignore it, it leaves. But if you notice it too much, if you talk about it or draw it, it stays. That's why I told you not to open the door. That's why I didn't want you upstairs. My throat tightened. Everything suddenly made sense. The drawings, the warnings, the calm way Liam handled things no kid should ever understand. He'd been living with this longer than I realized. Alone. Protecting me in ways I didn't even see. But the worst part was still coming. I asked, why now? Why is it stronger tonight? Liam looked away, then said quietly because Dad let it in again. The last time he left, it came back. But this time, he didn't tell me. He didn't warn me. My mind raced. My husband had left suddenly for that work trip. No warning. Just packed and left. He hadn't called since that first text. And I remembered something else. When I had found the door open that night, Liam said he locked it. But what if he had? What if it hadn't been the wind that pushed it open? What if it had never really left? Then the door behind us rattled, slowly at first, then harder. Something was on the other side, pressing, waiting, and through the cracks in the old wood, a whisper came, raspy and wrong, yet familiar. It said my name, not in Liam's voice, not my husband's either, but mine. I couldn't move. Hearing my own voice whispering my name from the other side of that door broke something inside me. It wasn't just fear, it was a feeling of being pulled apart from the inside. Liam grabbed my arm and whispered, "It's copying you now. That's how it gets in. It confuses you until you open the door yourself." I shook my head, holding back tears. How do we stop it? He looked me dead in the eyes. We don't let it trick us. No matter what it says or sounds like, we don't open that door. The whispering got louder, now overlapping voices. Mine, Liam's, even my husband's. They twisted together like a storm of sound, begging, mocking, crying. The knob jiggled again, and then came a soft knock. Just 3 taps, slow and calm. Let me in. It was my husband's voice this time. But deep down, I knew it wasn't him. Not really. Because the real him hadn't called in days. Hadn't texted. And the last time I saw his face, I remembered now, he had looked scared. He'd kissed me too long, hugged Liam too tightly, like he knew he wasn't coming back. Then it hit me. I stood up and walked to the window, pushing the curtains aside. The backyard was dark except for the moonlight, but I saw it, our shed door swinging open. That shed had been locked since winter. No one ever used it. But now it was wide open, and something was standing inside it. Liam looked out too and whispered, "It's not outside anymore." I turned slowly. The knocking had stopped. And then the door creaked open. Not fully, just enough for a pale hand to reach in. But before I could scream, Liam stepped forward, held up one of his drawings, and shouted, "You can't have her." The thing paused. The drawing, one I hadn't seen before, had a circle drawn around the house, with markings and symbols I didn't understand. Liam threw it to the floor, and as soon as it landed, the hallway lights flickered back on. The hand jerked back. The door slammed shut on its own. Silence returned. The tension in the room vanished, like something had been cut loose. I held Liam, both of us shaking, breathing hard. "How did you know that would work?" He looked up at me with tired eyes. "Dad taught me." Before he left. Relief washed over me until my phone lit up with a notification. A voicemail. From my husband. Time-stamped 2 days ago. "Don't trust the boy." I stared at the phone, heart racing, unsure if I even wanted to hear that message. But my finger moved on its own, pressing play. My husband's voice came through, shaky, tired, like he was speaking in a rush. "If you're hearing this, I didn't make it. There's something wrong with Liam. He changes at night. Sometimes he remembers, sometimes he doesn't. But it's not always him. Don't trust the boy. Don't be alone with him." The message ended. My hands were cold. I turned slowly, finding Liam sitting on the floor, staring at the drawing he'd just used to save us. "Liam," I said, my voice soft but cracking, "do you remember what happened just now?" He blinked, confused. "You mean the storm?" "There wasn't a storm," I said gently. He rubbed his eyes. "I feel tired. Like I was dreaming." Something inside me sank. I didn't know whether to believe the voicemail or what I'd just witnessed. Liam had saved me. He'd protected the house, faced down whatever that thing was. But what if my husband was right? What if Liam wasn't always himself? Still, as I watched him curl up on the couch and pull the blanket around his shoulders, I couldn't see a threat. Just a scared kid. A kid who had lived with fear for too long. I spent the next few days researching everything: protective symbols, ancient folklore, even old audio tapes my husband left in his locked desk drawer. There were notes, drawings, mentions of mirroring entities, spirits that attach themselves to vulnerable hosts. It wasn't just the house that was haunted, it was Liam. Or maybe something tied to him. And somehow my husband had known all along but chose to deal with it alone. I had a choice to make. I could turn my back and walk away, leave the house, leave the boy, or I could stay and fight whatever this was, the way my husband tried to. I chose to stay. Weeks passed, and nothing strange happened. Liam laughed more, slept through the night. The drawing stopped. Maybe whatever it was had gone for now. But I never deleted that voicemail. I kept it saved, a quiet reminder that even the people we love most might carry shadows we don't fully understand. Sometimes, when the house gets too quiet, I check the locks. And every now and then I hear faint knocking in my dreams. But I never open the door.